Y ahora vamos a dar paso a Daniel Willis, del restaurante The Club de Londres. La distribución del espacio como herramienta de diseño de experiencias. Daniel, how are you? It's a pleasure to have you here. It's an honor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed.
No. No.
Welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Okay. Iganon, Patu Nireskera is der oso ona. Harai desagun ingaleras. So first, I suppose I should apologize for my terrible attempt to speak Basque. And next, I say thank you to host and the Culinary Center Basque for inviting me here today. It's a real honor to be in front of you and to talk and tell you my story. That's where I want to start, to talk about the Clove Club and how it came about. And I want to do that in the context of some of the topics we're discussing today. And I also want to touch on some of the challenges we face in London and the rest of the UK. So, here we go. So the story starts here. This is my flat, or it was my flat. I used to live before I got married and had a child and had to move out. And this is November 2010. And we turned our house into a restaurant, basically, and we served 24 people a night over 3 nights. And we did this 3 times over 9 months. And we invited the best chefs we knew to come and help us create the most amazing evening we could. And from there on, basically, this opened our doors to the rest of the world. And we went on to hold a number of different dinners all over the city, on top of car parks, in derelict buildings, in other people's apartments, not just our own. And the last of which culminated in Young Turks at the 10 Bells, which some of you may know of, some of you may have even been. And this was, at the time, and some people still say, probably the most talked about restaurant pop-up in London, of that era at least. And it was featured in so many different papers and magazines. This was Gourmet Traveller, I think. We were written about in the New York Times and Time magazine. And it was a massive success. It went from 3 months to 6 months. It was just a little room above a pub. And I think the surprise of that, or the success of it anyway, became a little bit of a surprise to us, because we were, in this period of sort of pop-ups, we were just doing what we could do. It was just very natural, and we were just trying to be creative and do dinners our own way in different locations. And off the back of this, we ended up crowdfunding. So we put a pitch up online and offered people the chance to invest in a restaurant which didn't even exist. And we sold 25% of the restaurant for £250,000. And people invested. So then, from then on, we went to our new home. Just to be clear, that the whole building is not the restaurant, but it's a very beautiful building. Our bit is just here, behind the lamppost. But it's a beautiful Grade 2 listed building, so it's protected, and that made the renovations very hard. So we opened in 2013, and we had the help of an architect. There's me, and that's what the dining room did look like. And yeah, we had him as a sounding board, and we worked very hard on every little detail of how we could make the restaurant work in the space. This was you may recognize the next image, but this is nice to see what it did look like. And as I said, lots of discussion, so much passion, thought put into just all the little details of how we made it work. And then now this is what it looks like now. And I think we've come to describe the restaurant as a restaurant for our generation. And I think we wanted to create a place for ourselves and our friends that we could serve really ambitious food, but tasty food in a relaxed environment. And I think it's funny, I don't think we'll ever kind of put that much heart and soul and discussion and focus on so many little details into a restaurant again. And it comes on to one of the thoughts I was given to think about, which is that now gastronomic concepts are built for a clientele or a person. And I think that's quite an academic way of putting it. And I think in this context, for me, I felt to say something different, which was you create your first restaurant for yourself and your next for someone else. So, London, like any other capital city, it's very compact, it's very busy, and space is at a premium. And there's a constant battle to try and find the right site. And then, invariably, those sites are quite awkward, which is the Clove Club is an example of. I mean, you look, that's the kitchen, that's it, that's where we do it from. And as much as we try and have an idea and a concept, the space determines how you are able to do it and how much of that you're able to do. And we've really kind of, in some ways, we've outgrown the space, but we've pushed it to the max of what we can possibly do. And it's been a lot of hard work, but over the last 5 years, there's been some really big achievements that we're very proud of. So after 18 months, we gained 1 Michelin star. Then after that, we entered the 50 Best 100 list at number 87. Then 2016, we came highest new entry in the 50 Best at number 26. That was in New York. That was a very enjoyable trip. And then last year, 2017, in Australia, we came 26 again. And this is the three of us, all looking very happy, especially my business partner in the middle, who was at the library for 6 years. So when they came 27 and we came 26, he was especially pleased with that. So, moving on from that, hopefully we come back in 6 weeks' time when we get a little bit further up, so fingers crossed for that one. That's our story to date, pretty much. And I think it's an interesting one for a lot of people because I think we did so much, we built so much. We built a brand, we built a fan base, like potential guests, we built relationships with suppliers, we got a chance to try out our own food and our service and the wines we wanted to pour. And we did all this before we even had a bricks and mortar restaurant, which I think now is probably considered a sensible way to go about things, but at the time, lots of people, I think, thought it was quite groundbreaking. So, on to Clove Club and the team. And a little bit about service. And I think the style we practice at the Clove Club is we refer to as adaptable service. And I think to take a step back from that, a restaurant survives and prospers on the people that come to it. And sometimes I think that's forgotten. And if you think about it, any of those people at any time can just choose to go to another restaurant, and then your restaurant goes out of business. And I think everyone that comes to your restaurant has to have the most amazing time possible, and they have to go away feeling really well looked after. And to us, the way that we do that is flexibility. So flexibility is key for us. And I want to talk about a couple of little examples. The first is my wife is a staunch feminist and objects outright to, and she also works in restaurants, but she objects outright to women and ladies being served first in restaurants. Which is something I have my own opinions on, but we don't do it as a rule at the Clove Club. But if someone does, or we think there's an elderly couple, or a boyfriend or a husband's taking his wife out for a birthday or an anniversary and they want to be treated and lavish, then we will serve the lady first, and we just write LF on the box, on the docket. And everyone across the building goes, okay, let's do that. I think another one we use is we talk about guests being HWC, which is handle with care. And if someone comes in and they're a little bit insecure, they're not really sure what they're doing in this weird building in East London, and they've come from West London, and there's no white linen, and they've had a bad day, or they're not really sure, then we try and get that information across the team. HWC means everyone comes together, sommeliers, managers, waiters, we send some chefs out with the food to the table to talk to them, and we really all just try and come together to turn them around. We kill them with kindness from the outset, and 99% of the time we really win them over. Another thing that we always do is if anyone's from the UK, we try and find out where, and then if they're from North, where I'm from, I'll do my best impression of Liam Gallagher and start talking like this. If they're from outside the UK, then we always try and find someone in the kitchen who is of that nationality or speaks that language, and they'll take over a dish and say hello. They're all little things I imagine lots of people in this room already do at their own establishments or have had done to them, but little touches which makes it really special, changes their night. Another thing we always ask, or I ask my waiters, is what's the vibe? What's the vibe on table 10, table 2? And I think, although it's a bit of a silly question, it suggests and it asks for something more than are they having a nice time? Do they like the food? Do they like the wine? It prompts the waiter to think about the story, who they are, what's going on the table, and that's something that we always try and instill in our team, to think past just whether they liked the last dish that they had or not. So one of the points I was asked or suggested to talk about was, again, this idea of creating a service style for a clientele. And again, that seemed a little bit strange to me to start off with. And I think the more I pondered it, the more I realized that actually it's a very valid question, and it's something that we do naturally. So whenever you create a restaurant, you think about, and the service, you think about the little points of the service, and you do that with someone in mind, and that person has a face, and they are part of a demographic, and that in itself comes to define who you think is going to come to your restaurant and how you want them to be treated. And when we did this with the Clove Club, at the time, restaurants in London were very formal in their approach to service. You know, there was white linen, opulent light fittings, carpets, lots of French people in bad-fitted suits who were very formal and stiff. And we encouraged our staff when we opened to just be themselves. The hey guys from Noma, from Marta's talk, that's not something that we would vocalize, but we would say, you know, rather than hello sir, hey guys, how are you? Just someone talking to you like you would introduce you to a friend, or just that level of formality stripped out so they feel comfortable, and that's what we do. We didn't have a team of sommeliers. We opened with 20 reds, 20 whites, with the idea that the waiter carried you through the journey, that they didn't interrupt the table too much, that guests got to enjoy the food and the wine and the company of their guests without too many interruptions. No one kind of water over your shoulder all the time. As time has gone on and we've got a little bit more comfortable in what we do, and we've grown in terms of the experience, the menu's more intricate, it's longer, the price has gone up. We're now on a bit more of an international stage. We're known globally. I think we have developed those elements to the service, and now we have sommeliers and 400 wines, and we top up wine. And my last bastion of holding out on water service, I've finally crumbled on. But my staff tell me that guests don't notice, and the table's much clearer and it's free of bottles. So I've given up on that one. And now we go one step further. So we ask questions at the start of the booking process, and just little things like, are you celebrating? We also have a meeting now, which is called EGE, which is Elevating Guest Experience. And I think that what we try and do with that is to approach front of house a little bit like the kitchen approach the menu. They create new dishes, and that means the food's pushed forward. And for us, service is like that. We don't just try and make everyone do everything the same. We have to approach it in a similar sort of way. So we talked about celebrating before. Just a little thing, when someone comes to the restaurant, if they are celebrating, we say, what is the name of the person who is celebrating, and if it's their birthday. And then we write a handwritten card with their name in it from the whole restaurant. They get a little chocolate bar, handmade hand wraps, and then the ubiquitous happy birthday with a candle. And then at the start of the meal, the manager goes over and says, hi, how are you guys? I understand that you're celebrating this evening. And someone says, yes, it's my birthday. And you say, well, happy birthday from us and everyone at the restaurant. And it really, from the outset, it really does change their experience. And we get amazing feedback from it. So, off the back of this, we also ask if we can make diners' experience any more special? Just a simple question. And it's really great because it gives us the ability to take some of these funny requests, like can we have 2 martinis when we arrive, or can I have a flower on the table, it's my girlfriend's birthday, and it gives us just a little bit of more information that we don't force people to give, but if they do, it helps us kind of craft a bit more of a unique experience. In addition to that, we've also begun to collect some slightly more meaningful information on guests, so we just write a report on their experience with us, anything that they liked or disliked. We have a little title in their guest profile called Story, which is, you know, if they're from out of town, what were they doing, why they came here, what they do as a profession. And all these little things help us change and create a slightly different experience for the next time that they come in. So customer service, I think now, I hate the term customer service, and I always say to my staff, whenever they start, if they say the customer, I always say that restaurants have guests and drug dealers have customers. But in the context of talking about customer service, you have to say customer service. But now it's more important than ever, and I think with the advancement of globalization in terms of knowledge sharing, you know, food has really come on, especially in the UK. And I think good food is what attracts people to restaurants, but great service is what keeps them coming back. In terms of, okay, 5 minutes, okay, I need to get going. So in terms of globalization, I think that competition is very fierce, and in terms of staff, the talent pool in London is getting smaller. And I sort of alluded before in terms of some of the challenges we face, but Brexit really is going to have a huge impact on the UK, and actually I think it is already having a massive effect. And that's not just what's to come in terms of the single market or the customs union and how we negotiate that, but also actually just the message and the signal that to the people who already are in the UK, who are from the EU, that they're not welcome. And then in addition, the people that might want to come to the UK, that they're not welcome, who aren't here yet. Already in 2017, immigration to the UK has dropped by 75,000 people, which is huge. That's the biggest drop in like recent memory. And I wonder how many of those people would actually come and work in the restaurant sector in the UK. So we're looking now at trying to work locally, engaging with colleges, schools, to try and take it in a positive way and engage with our community more, but actually hopefully get some people from the UK who are interested in restaurants to come and work with us. And on that note, I'd like to say something very important, that across all political viewpoints in UK, and especially London at the moment, there's a new ideology that prevails above these ideas of the left or the right, Conservative or Labour, and that is that people in cities view themselves as from anywhere and everywhere, and that they're global citizens, and that they would like our borders open. And then we have another ideology, which is people that are from the country who live further out, who live out of these cities, and they consider themselves local and national, and they want their borders closed. And I'd like to say that in restaurants, we are global people, and in London, I represent a community of restaurants, and I'd like to say that very much so to anyone who is thinking about coming to the UK or considering working, that we are global people, our doors and our borders are open, and we invite you to come and work with us in London. Quickly, we'll just talk about globalization. I've got 2 minutes, I'll make it quick. So, I've got 3 minutes, brilliant. So, globalization, we touched on it before, and I think at the Clove Club, we sell tickets, so we use the ticket system from Alinea Talk. And we also have a global audience. 49% of our guests are between 24 and 35. 52% of those are male. And 66% of those are from the UK, and the rest from 11% from USA, and the rest from Europe and Asia. And increasingly, we find ourselves working across social media and all platforms, campaigns which we tailor to specific audiences. with a plate of food and a person. We measure those success rates, and we see the click-through to our website, and then from the website into TOC, and then we see the money go into our bank account. And this is all very e-commerce, which in some ways feels very distant to what it is to work and live in a restaurant. And from that perspective, these are all tools that we have at our disposal, but I think they are quite separate, as I said. And I think that you either engage with this international platform or you don't, and some people aren't even aware of it. And I think that to me, I think, is kind of, in a way, the essence of what a restaurant is living in the real world. We're not ones and zeros traveling up and down cables. We're real people in real places. I think we all have our favorite Pinchos bar or bistro in Paris or places from around the world. And all of these places, I think, are just doing what they've always done. I have a favorite restaurant in London. Oh, this is the globalization slide, but we have to move on quickly now. So we go straight to my favorite restaurant in London, which is Sweetings. It's been there for over 100 years. They only take reservations by the phone, or you can walk in. It doesn't make any sense in terms of the way it's laid out or how it works, but the food's brilliant. Like I say, it's been there for over 100 years. It's a family tradition. And they're just doing what they've always done, which is trying to serve good food and good wine to people in a great way, which keeps them coming back, and hopefully that pays the bills and maybe a little bonus at the end of the year. And I think that comes back to this idea that regardless of globalization, what happens is that restaurants, we all work in them for the same thing, and that is to do that, to serve great food, pour wine, and give great service. And that's all we do it for. So lastly, I want to say thank you to Dario and Dimi for taking me to the Museum of Whiskey last night. I'm glad I made it through.